And I think that goes into the business as well, right?
Oh, yeah.
Everything you do with an employee, with being attractive as an employer, and seeing that long-term vision, you got to provide value to these employees. All right, yellow color glasses, episode 84. Welcome. Today we have JR Rivera on the podcast.
Perfect.
On the podcast today. So me and JR have known each other for about 2 or 3 years now. So super excited about having you on. But before we jump into this whole thing, we are going to read a review. So Warren Mounts Agency, everything we do for all of our clients, reviews, good or bad feedback is a huge part of everything we do. So Aaron G says, I did business with Jake Warren for several years when he was with State Farm. I saw it was a great opportunity to switch when Jake became an independent agent. I've got my home and auto, disability, business insurance with Jake. All of these are with different companies. That's the beauty of working with an independent agent. They work hard to find you the best coverage regardless of the company. They also built this agency with great customer service. I always get my calls and emails answered the same day. This agency is super motivated group of people. They are young and hungry, and I'm happy to know that they will be around for a very long time. If you haven't checked them out, please do. Aaron, thank you. That's a really good review. Known Aaron for a while, so that was awesome. So again, everybody knows bad word travels faster than good. So anytime we can get some good word out there about us, it's a real blessing. So thank you guys. So, JR, we do a peek and a pit on this podcast, okay? So before we get into what me and you are going to start talking about, let's talk about our peek and a pit. So something good that's going on with you right now. It could be business, it could be family, friends. What do you got going on that you're excited about?
I think it's, for me, it's number one, family right now.
Okay.
Getting more dialed in my time and segregating what I have to do in different time brackets.
Mm-hmm.
That has always been such a struggle for me.
Mm-hmm.
Prioritizing and scheduling times to do specific things and really focus on that, specifically not being all over the place or being on my phone.
Yep, being more present.
Yeah, present. So being a little bit more focused, I think, is one of my rocks for this year.
Okay.
So.
That's awesome. I love that. It's actually funny you say that. We've been talking about doing that, just being more intentional with everything we do.
It's hard to.
And it is, because it's so easy to be very lazy in the world we live in, like not having to go to the grocery store. You can get Uber Eats, you can do everything from your house, right? So it can just, I don't know, it can almost be like clockwork, and next thing you know, your day's done. So
100%.
Anyways, okay, a peek from me. Honestly, I've been excited about you guys coming down. So this has been in the works for a while. We've gone up to Omaha for a couple times at a golf tournament, so that's been always fun. So finally we get to have you guys come down to KC. So super excited about that. This is actually going to feed in or go into my pit as well. Is we hired new people. We got 2 good new guys coming on. We actually had a guy pass his test today. Another guy started on Monday. So we've been really working hard to find some good guys to come on board with us. So we finally got that done.
That's a little bit of a peak as well.
That's what I'm saying. Like that's my peak. Like that's part of my peak. Now, where the pit comes into play is the paperwork. Like the logins, getting them appointed with all the carriers, like just all these little things. It's like, gosh, I always forget about. Now it's double time. So, anyways, I'll take that pit all day long. Because again, realistically, it's a good thing. It's just, Anyways, so
that's what that you can have.
Correct. What's a pit for you? What's something you're?
Well, I guess, I guess just getting more acquainted with the market and how everything has been, getting that dialed in. I don't see it as so much of a pit, but I do think that it's a little bit of a readjustment.
It's a pivot.
Yeah, pivot. So readjustment, maneuver, keep moving forward.
Okay. Yeah, no, I love that. Yeah, man. So thanks for coming on. So I guess let's just start with just telling us a little bit about you and what you guys do, and what that looks like.
Yeah, 100%. Well, first off, thank you so much for having me, and it's been a long time coming over here to Kansas City.
I know.
It's been Pleasant Hill specifically. It's been a heck of a last 3 years getting to know you guys
Yeah.
and watching you guys grow and grow your agency and really bring it to fruition. Phenomenal. You guys have done it.
Well, you guys have helped us a ton with that, man. Like it's wild. Like, I don't know. I just feel like we see your guys' stuff. I feel like I've seen like your guys' stuff, and then I think you guys have seen our stuff, and then we both just copy off each other's stuff without even asking. And I'm just like, and I love that. Like, I'll tell Michaela sometimes, I'm like, look, that looks like they might have got that from us, and then I'll show them, like, look at this, we should do that. So, anyways, I love just feeding off you guys.
Well, it's been amazing to watch you guys just completely take it over, and then where you guys are at. I mean, this office is just amazing. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Awesome to be here, and thank you for having us or having me on the show. And but a little bit about me. I've been in the industry for about 10 years. Originally with captive company, kind of like you State Farm, and really got to learn the ins and outs on relationship building. Mm-hmm. That was, I guess, the schoolhouse for me of relationship building. Prior to that, I was in the military. I was in the Marines for 4 years and got to learn a little bit about leadership and mentoring and coaching and training and standard operating procedures and just processes and systems that really make things be effective and go from an idea to actual substance. And that is something that you can't really learn overnight. So I was very blessed to learn that at a young age. Coming into State Farm, using some of those skills.
So you were in the military, sorry to stop you there. So you're in the military from what age to when?
17 to 21.
Okay.
So really young.
And then right after that, you got into insurance, basically?
A couple years after,
Couple years after,
Yep.
okay.
So
okay.
Came back, moved back to Nebraska, and started at University of Nebraska, Omaha, and at the same time started working with
State Farm.
State Farm.
Okay.
Yeah. So was there for about 5 years, learned the ropes, really got into relationship building, learned a lot from Cyrus and what he was doing at State Farm as well, and from my good mentor, Tom Rivera. Learned a lot about connections and building those relationships, not just doing it for the transaction, but actually making those relationships, building those relationships and nurturing them, and staying proactive about it. And then from there, 2020 really kicked off the independent world. So jumped over and started at Exarban Insurance, and it's been really a blessing because I didn't know what was in store, probably like you guys. Kind of scary, really, when you...
I was going to say, you can look at it a couple different ways, because here's my mindset on this, and I'm going to ask you this. So, like, if I would have known all of the things that went in to opening up this brokerage, dude, I think I would have been way more scared.
Yeah.
Because I was just thinking, man, all we need, we we got our phones. We'll just get some desks. We'll get a space, and we'll just start rocking and rolling. Like, just start writing insurance.
It's the beauty of an entrepreneur that you're, I guess, dumb enough to not look at that or consider those issues that could arise and just go like that and keep moving forward.
Yeah, that's exactly.
And do it again.
Yeah, and because I'm telling you, if I know every little detail that goes into that, that would be very overwhelming to me.
100%.
And I don't know if I would have ever gotten started with it. So, is that kind of how it was for you?
No, there's a lot that comes with it, and
that's wild. That's funny
so much growth, man. As a person, I was also going through a lot at the time, going through a divorce, becoming just new relationship,
just change,
reestablishing everything, and going through the process of building a company. All while COVID. Actually, the day that I started Exarban Insurance, March, about to be 4 years, March 16th. Was the day that Omaha Schools District closed for COVID, and so I showed up with my two daughters, like, let's go, with positive energy, positive vibes, and really the mentality of whatever it takes, we're going to get it done. Yep. And, whatever it is, there's no lower than this, so let's make it happen. Yep. So all the other issues didn't seem as bad after.
Well, there's just no other options. When your back's against the wall like that, and I don't know how it was for you guys, but, when we opened up, we all quit our jobs. Yep. We all went full on with this. Yep. And, we always talk about this sometimes is the more you have your back against the wall, right? The more times you have that, it's going to be, every single time it gets a little bit easier to get out of that, right? Yep. And I felt like on that moment when we did that, that was just another thing. But that one was the hardest in my opinion too. Oh, yeah. just with all the extra stuff that goes involved into it. So, no, I mean, props to you guys, because you guys are killing it. You guys, actually just talking to you outside a little bit before we got into here, like, I have a lot of questions on that, because there's some really things that you said just in a short amount of time. I'm like, gosh, that's exactly right. Like, those are the exact struggles that we're dealing with, and that's a completely different way of thinking about it.
You know, it's interesting that when you love what you do, it's constantly in your head, and you don't always get a chance to blurt it out, but when the opportunity happens, at least this is for me, it's like,
no, I love that. No, that's exactly right. Like, I can be having, like, so here's another thing that me and Michaela have been really making a focus on this year for 2024 is relationships, like having a value, bringing value to a relationship,
right,
and vice versa. And not necessarily, I mean, we're trying to cut out a relationship that doesn't bring any value to us, because we can't have that completely suck all the energy out of us, right? 100%. And I feel like a relationship has to be both. Like, if I'm having a relationship with you, I have to bring you value for it to continue to make sense for you, right? And vice versa, okay?
100%.
And I feel like, not saying that when I say value, we've talked about this a little bit before, it's not like it's a financial result or any kind of commission, like from a financial standpoint, but just a value as a better friend, as a better son, as a better leader, whatever that might be, right? So I guess where I'm going with this is that I feel like when we are in these relationships, whenever we're being more mindful of it, the conversations that we have and the ideas that we get and the feelings that I get personally after these type of conversations, it's almost like, gosh, okay, like that makes me feel not so alone, where it's like these other people are dealing with these same type of things. And then it's like you go back to doing something and it's like, okay, let's do it this way, because we've gotten it out into the world, we talked about it, and we put it into words.
It's it's such a game changer. You know, they say that the 5 people you hang around with is the average. That's what you're going to be. And that's such a true statement. When you have those relationships that have that much value, you can have a regular ass conversation on a Tuesday, and it'll feel like a mastermind.
That's what I'm saying.
And that just changes the way you live.
Well, that's a way better way to say it, because that's exactly right. So for an example, we went to a trivia night at a place on Wednesday night, and the couple we were going with, like, they're like, I want to be around them. Like, they're good people. They like, I value what they do, right, and how they do things. So we went there, and I was just like, trivia night, like, I'm terrible. Like, I'm not the guy to call for trivia, you know. But I was so excited. And dude, we left there 4 or 5 hours later, and it was just like me and Michaela, we were talking about real estate, we were talking about all these things. It was like we just got done with a freaking huge football game. We were just like ready to go. And it was trivia night, you know? And that's a great way, because it makes you, there's just something about it. It's like, I don't know, it's almost like a dopamine hit for me, where I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, I am freaking excited about this. I'm just about getting up the next day and doing this. So anyways, that's a great way to put it. I love that.
100%. No, and all of that, I think, gets more and more powerful when you really start dialing in what matters the most as you start growing. I feel like in your early 20s, it is more superficial. Late 20s, you start considering value and really focusing on value, and I think your 30s is just dialing in who you want to be around and who you don't. And
it's no disrespect to the people you don't. It's
100%.
It's not because I think I'm better than them or anything like that at all. It's about the value.
100%.
Right? It's about this is where we're wanting to go, and
sometimes it's just the point of your life where you are at that point that just determines who you need around your circle.
Yeah.
So.
No, I love that. That's awesome. And I feel like you guys, I mean, again, we don't really know each other that well, of course, but like I feel like you guys do a really good job of that. I mean, of living that, you know, living your life that way, you and Rosa and everybody else involved on your guys' team.
I appreciate that, and I you know, to us, it's really become a lifestyle, and trying to focus on that over the last 4 years has been. I feel that it helps my personal life as well, and the way we, like you were just mentioning, coming back home and being re-energized. That's addicting, man. I love being so focused when I'm relaxed and just hanging out with friends. That it's you know, I'm growing while I'm just hanging out, and that changes the way you live, and that I think that helps your relationships. That helps your position as well, and different hats that you wear, like being a dad and being a better son, better sibling, all that stuff I think improves as long as you have that mentality of growth and self-development.
Well, and mental clarity, I mean, just anything mental-wise, right? Like, I mean, I feel like the times where I feel like if I've ever gotten down, where I'm not feeling accomplished or feeling like I need to be doing more, is the times that I don't have a lot going on.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not, there's not a lot of good conversations going on. I'm going through the motions with stuff. But the days where I'm busy and I have stuff back to back to back and I'm having these conversations maybe on the phone with this person and that phone, and then next thing you know, it's at the end of the day and I'm just like, holy cow, like look how much we have accomplished today. Look at all the things that we have done today versus sitting at the office or sitting at the house and not doing whatever it is. Like, does that make sense on what I'm trying to say? Like,
and it doesn't even matter what industry you're talking about.
Correct.
This is translated all across.
All the way across.
Whether you're in real estate, you're in corporate America, whatever it is. But having those kinds of days where you are actually bringing value to who you are as an individual.
Who you are. That's a great way. Yep.
Growing your personal value. All that stuff makes a huge difference. So, moving into kind of like insurance, I think it's all that really brings a different dimension into the traditional insurance agency, which I don't think really existed just a few years back. In most areas of America, it's not really a factor. You think of an insurance agent, most people think of insurance agent, they think of either funny commercials, things done online, or an old agent, really, for lack of a better word, just somebody that's kind of a stale old agency that doesn't
old
have a
agent
personality.
wears those big suits and big old pants and everything. That's what you think of.
like a 90s lawyer.
Like an Andy Reid type guy. Like Andy Reid would be a great. If you put a white shirt and a tie on him and like have him wear his pants, like that's what you think of as an insurance agent.
So coming in with a different perspective and with a little bit of, I always call it your own salsa, your own spice, your own flavor to the mix. It really changes the dynamic of wherever it is that you are operating in insurance. It's not really thought of that way. Insurance is usually much more boring industry that doesn't have a whole lot of personality.
Yep.
So when you come in and change things, clients can see that, referral partners can see that, industries in general can see that, and your whole area of operation changes.
Yeah. What are you guys seeing with? That's a great point. What are you guys seeing with? So, to talk about the age of agents, like, are you guys seeing a lot of newer agents come into this market?
Definitely.
Are you?
Yeah.
Like brand new to the business? On the independent side, yes, I think you're right. I think the independent channel is growing. It's growing. Like the stats are out there.
Yeah.
People, the modern day era of insurance is options.
Yeah.
We have to have options. We have to be efficient. We have to have options. Yeah. But I'm talking about the actual age of a brand new agent coming into the insurance field in general.
It's hard to say. I get a feeling of yes because of what I see typically marketed on social media. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's just a factor of it being social media and it being a younger crowd anyway. So maybe that's the perspective that I have. But it does seem like it's mostly on the independent channel. So that's
I agree.
Definitely makes sense. Mm-hmm. And I do see that it's for the most part, 40 and under. I do see a lot of that.
That's true. No, you're right. The social media, though.
At least up in the Omaha metro.
Yeah. And on our end, I'll be honest with you, man, like, I don't know very, very many younger people, in their early 20s coming into the insurance market in general, just in the industry in general. And where I'm going with this is that I think the market itself, or the industry itself is in a pretty good spot for, guys like us. Yep. I don't think I'm necessarily the smartest guy at all, but like what you were saying earlier with having a culture, with having different ways of making insurance, not so boring, right? It's not a sexy product, right? So it's like, how do you relate to these people, right? And I think the new era of insurance is exactly what we're talking about, doing on the podcast, doing all the reels and all this social media stuff. Oh, yeah. But what's going to happen is whenever these older guys and older agencies are retiring, that's going to have there's going to be a huge flooded a market of new clients that don't have an agent, that don't have a relationship with. And next thing you know, they're going to call us. They're going to call us. Like, so in my opinion, we're in a spot where it's the next 10 to 15 years, you could really say that the market is going to get really, really good for us. Not because, and maybe I'm not going to speak on your end, but not because of how smart or how good we really are, but just because of the options. And no one's going to have very many options because there's not a lot of people coming into the field in itself.
I completely agree. And there is, the exodus is going to be huge.
That's what I'm saying.
That's 100%.
And that's even just selling, I've seen with baby boomers just in general, with selling of businesses.
Oh, yeah.
Anything in the service industry, like CPAs, insurance agents, things like that. Like, no one's going to do those type of things or having their own practice. And then the other thing is, and I've also seen this with construction, right? If you look at the average construction worker, 10 years ago, it was in the 26, 27, maybe 28 years old. Now it's 36.
Yeah.
So what does that say?
Yeah,
no one's going into the industry.
They don't want to work.
Yeah. And I think it could be a little bit of that, but I think it's also a little bit of there's just different job opportunities out there 100%. That they're not picking these things. And that's not bad. It just gives a huge opportunity for somebody like us, in my opinion, to completely control a market. And really, because again, customers are still going to do business with people that are doing them right. And that's the easy part, in my opinion, is just do a customer right. And then all the things you're talking about is probably a little bit harder, but I think we're on the right track there.
No, 100%. And it just comes with that mentality of wanting to do the right thing for the client, wanting to do it as efficiently and as, clear as possible, try to do it as effective as possible, and try to just make sure that you have as many options on the table, and you're doing it as with the best kind of communication that you can, bringing in your own style and your own style of innovation. And it's going to be different than anybody else in the market. And as things transition, like you're talking about, and there's that exodus, there's going to be a lot of opportunity coming. Yeah. I think it's a little bit sooner, maybe in the next 5 to 10.
Yeah, 100%. No, I love that. That's really cool. Okay, so your team. So let's talk about team building a little bit.
Yeah, so within the spectrum of the whole large operation, there are several partnerships, several different relationships with different agencies that operate sort of independently.
Okay.
And so it's a pretty large team, everybody that works there at CGIG. The biggest focus has been on really culture and accountability. Those are the two biggest factors that I think drive an agency to success. And it's not just insurance. I think it goes across the board in many different industries.
I think you could, everything you're saying, I think you can apply this to so many businesses, construction businesses.
Bakery.
Correct. You could, honestly, it should be.
Yeah.
It should be applied to all businesses. If all businesses were like that, the competition would be so much more than what it is.
And I think as long as you have growth in mind.
Correct.
And so.
And communication.
It's so crucial to really want to build those individuals' careers as you are growing the agencies. Mm-hmm. It's extremely important to try to have that in mind as you build a process and build systems for those individuals to thrive. Because if you just build a system for the agency, it's going to grow, but there's going to be a plateau. There's only so fast that you can grow something before it starts collapsing on itself. And the biggest key there becomes culture. And to maintain culture, you have to have the intent of wanting the best for those individuals. If you have that, you're winning and you're going to win. You're going to have success because those individuals are going to believe in what you are doing. And as long as you have clarity and a defined mission in mind, everybody understands where they're going. Everybody sees a clear path to success. So everybody works together to move the engine forward. Okay. And that takes a little bit of time, and it takes a little bit of creativity. Sometimes it takes a little bit of resetting and coming back to the table, talking as a team and seeing, okay, what is truly important for this agency? What is truly important for this market? And what is truly important for these individuals? And when you have that kind of clarity, I think really things really start building on their own.
Oh, And is that how do you be attractive to an employee to want to work for you? Right? Is it all of those steps? Because you can talk on that all day long, right? And you of course walk. You're walking the walk and talking the talk, of course. But how do you get those employees to really see that and really to buy into what you guys are doing?
Well, it's difficult. It's not as easy as it sounds, or maybe it doesn't sound.
No, it sounds super easy. That's
Yeah.
why I'm asking, and I feel like that's one of the biggest things that I know we've struggled with. Is getting people, because and again, I think where I think we could be a little bit better on our end is being very clear with where we want this business to go.
Yeah.
Like the expectation and the vision on what this business looks like 5 to 10 years down the road needs to be super crystal clear.
Yeah.
Right? Because how can I get somebody to jump on board and want to go with me if they don't know if they don't have a very good, clear vision of what the future looks like?
Jack, you're hitting the nail right on the head. That's exactly it.
Okay.
And it starts with communication. The second, I think it's also leading by example.
Mm-hmm.
So every single one of our top leaders have all been successful producers. Every single one, Cyrus, Bobby, myself. Every single one has been successful at what they're doing. So they're not just going, we're not just, stepping in and saying, hey, go do
This is
as
how
I
you
say.
do it.
No, we're actually saying this is how you do it. And it takes a little bit of that, and not everybody has the same setup, but it's one of those things that you want to make sure you're emphasizing, that leaders lead from the group and they lead from the front. It's always one of those things that you don't just sit in the back and say, go. You have to pull with, and it's essential. And whether it's lead generation, and you're the rainmaker for the team, or whether it's relationship building to make sure that the relationships keep on feeding the cow, or 3, it's producing and making sure that the systems are in place so that everybody can thrive. So all of those things have to be in motion, and at the end of the day, you have to keep fine-tuning, because the industry, just like any other industry, will always innovate itself, and it will always be adapting and moving and changing, and you have to what we've seen the last year. I would have never thought that the industry would have taken that kind of turn just a few years before.
Nope.
But then all of a sudden, it's like, boom, roadblock after roadblock after roadblock, and you can take it negatively. We were talking just before the show, just about before this episode, about how people have been taking it negatively, but that's not the mentality that you need to have. In fact, there's so much opportunity in this kind of market that allows somebody that's leaning in to win.
And that looks like, and that's, I'm gonna relate this to real estate. And again, I'm not saying that market crashes are good, because a lot of people get hurt in market crashes, right? Like when things are bad, there's insurance companies going out of business, right? Like we look at that as like, oh, it's just an insurance company. There's somebody on the back end that is a big struggle. Like there's some down times for certain people in those areas. But when market crashes, right? When insurance companies shut down, or if you have go back to 2008 when the whole real estate market crashed, right? Like think about how many opportunities there were during that time. You just have to be prepared to act on those opportunities.
100%.
And some way, somehow, Warren Amounts, I think, just kind of fell into it. I don't think we had any idea. I don't think you guys didn't. Didn't sound like you guys had any idea either. But the things that we did was I think you have to accomplish. You have to basically jump on that opportunity and take advantage of that situation. Not saying I wish this on everything, on other people, but it happens. That's part of life, and it's being ready to jump.
So you can either lean in or lean
Correct.
back.
Yep.
Up to you.
Exactly. And that's a good point. Yeah. So go back to the team culture. So you said culture and accountability, and then having a clear vision, because I feel like getting people to buy into what we want, and because everybody has different opinions and different views on things. I just feel like that's one thing that we struggle with a lot is getting crystal clear with that expectation and that vision. And I don't think you always have to have it figured out all the time, right? Because it's like you said, you're always trying to adjust and pivot to certain things.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing, and there will be adjustments. Sometimes it's, we've had a lot of accountability measures, and the goals that we set are done in conjunction with the goals of the individual. We're not always, we do have minimums in mind based on what we're trying to get the agencies to, and expectations also, so that those individuals can succeed and maybe shoot a little bit higher than what they think that they can do. Sometimes they don't know what they don't know, so they're coming in and not understanding the market and being fearful and saying, well, let me stay comfy. That's exactly where we want to push them out. We want to say, no, let's think a little bit bigger, and let's think like you can actually make some noise here.
Correct.
And I believe in you. And as long as you actually put in the effort to really coach and train those individuals and set the right systems around them. After that, it's just making sure that there's enough transactions coming in and the relationships that they're building, or if you're having them build their own relationships, that they are doing it in an efficient manner and they're growing as the team grows and everybody else grows. You don't want to be the only one getting better and everybody around you staying stagnant. So
That's
adjustments have to be made as the industry changes. Things have to be made. I mean, we've seen rates almost double in some areas in the United States, and so our expectations have to also change. You can't expect people to just write a certain amount when now premiums, you get there with 2 policies, you know, so you have to make sure, even though it is tougher, so consider all factors and make sure that you're actively working on growing. So
that makes sense.
And accountability is one of those things that as long as you embed it into the culture and you make it a standard, it's clear, it's obvious, and it's a standard from day one. We don't like to shy away from letting anybody know 100% how we do business. So sometimes there's a little bit of shadow work. Hey, come in, see how it's like. See people get rejected. Be in that space and understand that it's not always going to be beautiful. You know, you're not going to come in and be a rock star day one. It's going to take a little bit of practice, and actually a lot of practice and a lot of rejection, so you can actually have that growth. It's going to be a little painful. It's like ripping off Band-Aids, but at the end of the day, you're going to feel a lot better once you're actually doing what you need to do and you're achieving the goals that we've put in place and they put in place as well in conjunction. So it's all just a matter of process and a matter of adjusting, pivoting, and moving. In the Marine Corps, we call it adapt and overcome. Adapt and overcome. Stay flexible, stay mobile, and move forward. So accountability, there's a lot of ways that you can do it. I don't know what you guys use here for systems, but we like to gamify things and we like to keep it in front of everybody. So you guys do scoreboard, or do you guys do something?
So we don't have scoreboard. We have we don't have anything like that. We have Easy Links that we use, and we have Sales Center.
Yep.
But we don't have scoreboard. But that's one thing we've actually talked about, and honestly, it's something we're probably going to grab once we get all these employees up and rolling.
It's crucial once you really have more people that are maybe. That you really want them to have a sense of accountability without you necessarily having to ask.
I was going to say
you want that kind of process, which I think is very valuable. You gamify it, you put it on a system that's in front of everybody's face constantly, and then there's no hiding. And if you have that kind of environment, it does get sometimes a little competitive and aggressive.
There's nothing bad about that. Yeah.
There's nothing bad about it. It's all about growth.
It's a good way. It's a really. I never thought of it that way. Is from an accountability piece, you're almost just letting that system be the accountability a piece to the whole, and it's not even you, right? Because sometimes, you know, if I'm trying to hold somebody accountable, like, hey, how we doing? Where we at? You know, it's like, okay, Jake's not happy right now, right? Like, I'm the bad guy, or you know, whoever that might be. It can come off as
instead you have a system color it red.
Correct.
Until it turns green.
That's a great, I love that actually. Huh. Okay. So is that what you guys use? Scoreboard?
Scoreboard Buzz, yeah. It's been an amazing tool and fairly inexpensive, super easy to use. It doesn't really incorporate with a whole lot of systems, but it's so easy. It's just a couple of clicks. It's also a little bit of a very rough estimator. You know, if you want to go back and kind of gauge how much you produce, you know, as long as you keep it pretty updated, it's not horrible. There's better systems like Easy Links that actually count premiums that are active and all that, but it's just a quick reference and not necessary, but it's one option. There's, I'm sure, many other options out there.
No, I've heard of Scoreboard, and I've always heard good things about them. So, okay, so let's talk about leads. So I know we talked about team building, accountability, being attractive as an employer. Leads wise, like, what are you doing to build these relationships up? Like, what are some things that you're doing to do that? Because I'm assuming that's feeding the leads, right? That's one portion of that feeds that lead funnel.
Yeah, 100%. It's the main portion. You have to understand that building your brand comes with building relationships. If you are actively doing that, people will see you as somebody that cares about what they are doing and, you know, out there hungry. If you stay hungry, you keep in contact with individuals and actively looking for more. And the ones that you have, really maintaining those relationships and nurturing them, taking care of those individuals and making sure that you are doing everything that you said you were going to do when you said you were going to do it, things will things will line up your way. Sometimes you can't avoid, there's relationships that come and go, and that's part of life. But for the most part, the ones that you want around are going to be people that believe in what you are doing and believe that you have the best interest for their clients in mind. So as long as that is true and you are doing everything you can to innovate and work hard to make things better for the client and really making sure that you have the best products out there, you're going to do just fine. And as long as you're not a lazy agent, keep in contact with individuals. If you're not front of mind, you're not anywhere. People, they move on to the next shiny thing, and you have to continue to be there, continue to put in the work. I call it feeding the cow or feeding the pig. It's continuing to make sure that you're doing those repetitions and contacting and creating value for those individuals, whether it's just sending out a regular email or regular text or just calling people out of the blue. You think about them. That's one of my biggest things. I think about somebody, I reach out to them. Even if I'm doing whatever I'm doing, sometimes that gets me in trouble when I'm talking about really segregating time and focusing, right? But it's one of my traits that I think of somebody, I'm like, hey man, just thinking about you, hope you have a great Friday.
Yeah.
Whatever that is, it goes a long way. Not always being so aggressive of asking for business, but making sure you're valuable. And when things change in the market, you might not think that it means anything to you, but putting in that extra 2 seconds to text somebody a little bit of an update or email somebody a little bit of an update, even if it's video, that goes a long way as well. And just setting up a quick little review of, hey, recently company B or company C have been not the best, but we have company A and company B really shining right now. They're going to be one of the best companies out there for your clients. Looking forward to continuing on working on your next client. Let me know when I can help. You don't always have to be as aggressive, but sometimes you do have to make sure that you are letting them know what you are there to do and how you can be of service, and that you're there actively waiting to be that guy for the job.
I love that. And you're talking about that with current clients, sounds like, and even potential clients, like new clients.
Well, I'm doing that with referral partners.
Okay, with all your referrals.
That's
Okay,
referral partners 100%. With clients, I'm not very active on asking for referrals unless it's right around the time that we are going through the transaction.
Okay.
I'm much more about the referral partners themselves and trying to make their business a little bit better to help my business grow as well.
Well, and I think you could relate that though, even to the client side as well. Like, I know we're not talking about, but like, and a little, you have to pivot, you have to change that up a little bit on the verbiage, but more of like, hey, whatever it might be, like you could give them a market update, like, hey, this is what's going on. If you ever need anything, let us know. This is how you get in contact with us, just to say, hey, we're here for you if you need something, right? 100%. If it's a new client, right? How I look at that and how you can maybe, change the verbiage on that a little bit is like exactly what you just said. Hey, you might with this carrier, it's great for right now. I know last time we looked at company A and company B and they weren't great, but now we have company D and E. So maybe we look at that. Maybe look at this again. So
100%.
I love that, and it's so wild how all those little things that all the things we've talked about can go towards so many different types of markets and different scenarios for all industries.
Yeah, it really goes across the board. It doesn't matter what industry you're in, it's going to be translating in if you have that kind of mentality of growth.
Yeah. So I mean, I feel like the market in general, you can apply all the things we've just talked about to so many different scenarios, so many different industries, and I think it's really cool. Like, I love that because sometimes I feel like I'd like to get more in front of people like yourself, right? Other insurance agents, but you can learn so much stuff from other types of industries and other types of business people, or anybody in a different industry. And they have to be the business owner, right? You can learn so much from so many different people. It's just, and it goes back to kind of what you were talking about at the very beginning of the podcast, is almost just being a little bit more present and listen. Just listen a little bit more, right? And ask maybe a couple more questions, because a couple extra questions could really just open up a completely different conversation. And I think that's what we have been seeing a lot on our end, is when we can try to provide the value a little bit more in a relationship, right? On a friendship, whatever that might be, we're getting more back too, right?
That's so true, yeah.
And again, that's been and again, like kind of like what you were saying, even like with the age, in your 20s, you know, maybe I had a little bit of an ego at the thing, like all the things I was doing was because of the chip on my shoulder or whatever it may be. And then you get to a spot, it's like, okay, like I still kind of maybe got that, but now it's like, you know what? I'm thankful for a chip on my shoulder, but now I'm here to like, let's say, okay, hey, we've had some success. Like, it's not about that. Let's figure out how we can all collaborate together and all get better and not just necessarily compete with each other, even though I'm a competitor.
It's all about that, man. It's just maturity.
Maturity, yeah, you're right. Probably just straight up maturity, just not being a little punk.
I know, and I'm there with you, man. It was the same thing for me. You learn a lot, you grow a lot as you start having those scenarios that put you back on your ass. That's just the reality. When you have something that just puts you in your place, and you see somebody else, sometimes you grow, but by watching somebody fail, and it's like, geez, that could have been me, man. That's what I would have done, you know. And you grow, and you just decide to kind of do things a little bit different. And you're 100% right. I mean, bringing value is the way to get it back. You can't just expect to just jump into a group of successful individuals and be like, hey guys, I'm here. You know,
what can you do for me?
No, you have to try your butt off to make something grow within that sphere.
And I think that goes into the business as well, right? Everything you do with an employee, with being attractive as an employer. And seeing that long-term vision, you got to provide value to these employees.
Yeah, 100%. We were just talking about the industry as well and how things are changing. Things will always be changing. And as long as you are really working on providing value for, number one, the clients, number two, referral partners, and number three, just the industry in general, you're going to be moving forward. You're going to be winning, and this is a company that banks on longevity. You have to be good at what you do for a very long time. Correct. That's how you become successful, and it's not as easy as go through a transaction and done. No, that's different.
It's not a transactional company.
So you do need a little bit of a different mentality than some of these other industries, but I think it's all about just doing the right things and having the right kind of growth mentality.
Well, and the right people around you.
Definitely.
Right? And when I say right people, mentors, people like, again, we don't work with each other. Like, really, you could say we're competitors, realistically. But it's how do you collab with people like yourself, right? We have another agent that I have a ton of respect for. There's another big brokerage down the road from us. Been around for 100 years. Yeah. They do things totally different, right? Yeah. They don't have a huge, like a ton of agents, but they just do things totally different, and it's worked very well, of course, 100 years. One of the guys I went to school with, and I always call him for questions, and I have a ton of respect. It's a mutual respect. I have a ton of respect for all of the agents over there, and they have respect for us. And they're older than us. They've been around doing it longer, and it was a huge compliment. And I'm not going to say it. Everybody else knows in here. But so we went and got health insurance, a group health insurance plans for everybody. Well, like for the office, sure. We have all of our health insurance, and then we were able to offer it to the employees. We don't know anything about health insurance, like on writing it, and I don't want to write that and not know what I'm getting into. Absolutely. So went down to the guys I'm talking about. Went in first time meeting the owners, and they told the guy that I went to school with. They said, they were a lot more humble than what we were thinking. And I'm like, I was like, first thing I said, I was like, well, they think we were like some kind of like assholes? And he's like, no, he's like, you guys are just new agents. When he elaborated, it was, no, we're new agents. We've had a ton of success. And we came in there just thankful that they were helping us. And I took that as one of the best compliments I've probably ever had, was because the guy he was just there to help. No ego, because I thought the same thing. I thought these guys are, man, like they don't have an ego at all. Like they're just here to help us. They're just good people. Yeah. And it was just a really cool feeling to know that they look at it that way too. And just the collaboration with that. I feel like that just makes rooms, just the vibe just completely better. Versus, competing, I love competing. I am a competitor. I hate losing. But to a certain point, and then it's like, how can we work together and still maybe lose and win inside of our office versus lose and win against each other? 100%. If that makes sense.
Having that growth mentality instead of, a small-minded mentality. Thinking about how we can all get better and move forward. There's some of my best friends are insurance agents, and they're competitors in the same market, but they're there's so much out there, so much business out there. It's ridiculous to think that we're going to think otherwise. So it's all about thinking about how we can all grow and how we can, continue to win against the captives.
Yep, exactly. Well, anything else you want to add on? I mean, we've talked about a lot, but we talked about team building, some accountability, some lead generation with relationships. I'm a big believer, like kind of what you said, we're saying as well with insurance is not transactional, right? Like it's a longevity, it's a long-term play. Everything you do, it's not about what I'm doing for you right now. It's about what I'm going to do for you down the road. And that's what insurance is in general. Because you don't buy insurance because you already had a claim. You buy insurance to come claim time, you have that right type of insurance. So it's a long-term play when that happens. And I think that's where on our end, it's a little bit different than, the mortgage industry or real estate where you're just selling one house or closing on one loan. It's transactional more so.
It's definitely a system of longevity. There's a relationship that gets established, and then you have to nurture and maintain that.
Yeah, nurture it.
These other industries, they have a similar road, but it's with the intent of getting business in the future. Mm-hmm. We continue to nurture that, and we are responsible for what happens throughout that relationship. So it's extremely important for us to maintain our book of business and our clients happy so that it continues to feed our book and continues to feed our relationships, continues to add to those relationships. And it's kind of like a neat little cycle. And I'd say day and night, from being an independent to a captive agency, how things operate and how you're able to really help those individuals and step up to the plate, how you say you are. It's tough when you're in a captive agency, and it's nobody's fault, but it's one of those situations that you want to help, but you don't have the tools to do it. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, I think that the industry will dictate a lot of what happens in the next, like you were talking about, I think even maybe a little bit sooner, but I think within 10 years, it's really going to start to shift. It's going to be different. And I think independent channel is going to be the majority out there, and maybe...
When it used to not be.
I know, yeah.
It's going to be the exact opposite.
It's completely different, and it's exciting to see. It's exciting to see agencies like your guys just take it all on and grow the way you guys have. It's been phenomenal, and phenomenal to know you guys as individuals as well. So thank you again for having me.
No, man. JR, appreciate you, man. Those are kind words, and looking forward to this weekend and talking more on this. But episode 84, I think that was a good one.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, guys.